Petr Yan is the UFC bantamweight champion yet again, and he's rolling back the years like it's 2020. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Against the Fence, where this is the place to be if you're obsessed and passionate about the UFC. And we've got a lot to get through in this live show, as we're going to be recapping the events from UFC 323. We've got some updates, some gossip to talk about as well, following the whole Jamal Hill versus Jedrzejczyk situation. Very, very interesting. So we'll get through that a little bit later on. We'll talk about the Yan versus Dvalishvili Trilogy, because that's pretty much next, isn't it? We'll talk about an update on the UFC White House card, which was came out yesterday via Donald Trump. We'll also look ahead at UFC 324 and 325, because the full cards of those were released during the live broadcast of UFC 323, so we'll get into that as well. And of course, what's next for the winners and losers following this weekend's main card. So smash a like on the video, hit the notifications bell if you're new to the channel. Like I said earlier, we are a UFC fan channel where fan opinions matter most, and we want to hear your opinions, whether it be in the chats or whether it be on the comments the next day or whenever you're catching this show. Yeah, lots to get through. So welcome on in. Big shout outs to, of course, some of the guys on the prelims. We've caught a few prelim fights. Manuel Torres, his knockout against Grant Dawson was pretty surprising. I think we all want to see him against a ranked opponent next. Sadly, we won't be talking about the lightweight division. We won't have the rankings for that division. Also, Chris Duncan as well, getting the submission against Terrence McKinney. Faraz Ziem as well. All three of these guys picked up wins in the lightweight division, and they're just sitting outside. Maybe I should have got Side to add in the rankings for this one, because that would have been really intriguing to kind of talk about and digest, because all three of these guys could very well pick up fights against ranked guys next. And let's be honest, like, I think they could fight each other, but I'm hope the UFC don't do that. Faraz Ziem definitely needs a ranked opponent. I felt like he needed a ranked opponent after the Matt Favola knockout, but the UFC didn't give it. Nazim Sadikov is an absolute demon. I didn't expect him to finish Sadikov in round 2 at all. So, yeah, fun nights of fights, man. Fun night of fights. Yeah, enjoyed it from top to bottom as well. And it's good to see Jalen Turner back in the mix as well when he defeated Edson Barbosa. Hopefully he's going to be sticking around with the UFC. He's probably still got some time to kill, I reckon. You know, he's still fairly young in this game. So yeah, but let's kick things off then by recapping some of the events from the main card, shall we? As we kick things off then by talking about the Jan Blachowicz versus Bogdan Guskorov fight. Jan is always in close fights, isn't he? You know, he's had the draw against Magomed Ankalaev. He's had the split decision with a loss against Alex Pereira. And he kind of proved that there's plenty of gas left in this old dog. But the UFC doesn't normally do rematches after draws. I feel some people might want or are expecting a rematch, but I can't see it, if I'm honest, straight away. They just don't usually do that, you know, otherwise we would have seen a rematch with Ankalaev straight away. Welcome on in, a Toolbox Talker says, yes, JK, what's good? Please, can we skip this one? This fight and Pantoja cost me 22 grand. I got every other fight right. No way, really? Mate, list off that parlay that you had. Jeez, that's madness. I mean, it's such a shame, isn't it? But then I thought, with like, if you do an accumulator, doesn't a draw just get cancelled out? That's what I thought happens. But yeah, so I can't see them immediately doing a rematch with this. As for Bogdan, he made it an incredibly competitive fight and deserves another higher ranked opponent, in my opinion. But it won't be as high as Jan Blachowicz, because look, he did well, but He didn't get the win at the end of the day. He needed to take out Blachowicz, and he failed to do that. I think a draw was kind of a good decision. That's not how I scored it. I think round 2, no, was it round 1? I felt could have been a draw because I think Bogdan got a knockdown, didn't he? And then straight after that, Jan actually put him in a submission attempt. So I kind of see it kind of cancelled out for that reason. Who I'm going to give Jan Blachowicz next, it's got to be Khalil Roundtree. He's coming off of the Yuri Prochazka loss. He's going to want to get back in there next year. Let's head into the rankings, shall we? And yeah, there's not many people that Jan Blachowicz hasn't fought on this list. I mean, Yuri Prochazka is one of them. However, I really want to see the UFC book Yuri Prochazka versus Magomed Ankalaev. I don't think they're going to do the Alex Pereira trilogy for Ankalaev. I mean, there's more reasons to that later coming in the show, because I do think that they will save Alex Pereira for the White House card. And there's lots to talk about with that. As for Bogdan Goskorov, the one fight I've got for him would be Dominic Reyes. He's coming off a knockout loss against Carlos Ulberg back in September. Could he be ready for March 2026, perhaps? It's a little jump. It's only one spot above him. It's either that, or would you give him... You wouldn't give him Azat Mirzakhanov because he also needs to fight a higher ranked opponent as well after his win against Rakic. He could fight Jan Blachowicz, in fact, or he could fight Khalil Roundtree, which we may have talked about before on the show. So Goskorov or Jamal Hill, depending on when Jamal Hill's going to come back from injury. I don't really keep up to him on socials, but he's been out since October with a knee injury. So yeah, maybe Goskorov versus Jamal Hill would make sense. Toolbox Talk says a draw isn't an option, and then the whole bet's void. Oh mate, that's a kick, man. Who did you have? Did you have Jan Blachowicz in there? Because wasn't he an underdog? Or am I wrong? JK, do you forget who a Toolbox Talk? Mate, I know who you are, George. I know who you are. I just read out the name because that's what it appears to me on my screen. It says a Toolbox Talk, not George Murray. But yeah, don't worry, bro. Don't worry. Yeah, who did you have? Jan Blachowicz or Goskorov in that parlay / accumulator, whatever you call it. But yeah, they're my fight options for this one. Yeah, for Jan Blachowicz, I'm going with Khalil Roundtree Jr. or Azamat Mirzakhanov. For Bogdan Goskorov, I'm giving him Dominic Reyes or Jamal Hill upon return. But then, yeah. Because Dominic Reyes should really defend his ranking. He could defend it against Johnny. I know, have they fought? Has Reyes fought Johnny Walker before? No, he hasn't. I think that's a good fight, to be honest. Both guys seem to get knocked out quite a lot in the division, so I think that's entertaining. I wouldn't be mad if that gets made. Wouldn't be mad, but yeah. My actual option would be Bogdan versus Reyes. Moving on then. Let's talk about then what's next for, well, I mean, one of these fighters in the bantamweight division, which was second up on the main card. Peyton Talbot, very impressive display against the former champion. He really seized the opportunity and showed he's ready for a top 10 opponent, in my opinion. He even took Cejudo down, I think, didn't he, briefly? At one point, outstruck him. Cejudo, it's kind of a shame to see him go out this way. He should have really had a Legends fight and then disappear from the sport. His forward pressure was good. He tried to keep Talbot on the back foot, but Talbot was just kind of too quick at avoiding danger. He landed some good knees to the body. He was very creative with his strikes. Yeah, sky's the limit for Talbot. Talbot was actually in my ones to watch for this year. And then January of this year, he then lost to Ronnie Barcelos. And it was like, well, that's a bit of a bummer. He's not going to climb any higher. And then the UFC decided to, well, he gets a win against that Lima guy, the young kid. And then the UFC decided to put him in there with Henry Cejudo straight off that win. So clearly the UFC are trying to push Talbot. It's very obvious here. But if he got that win against Ronnie Barcelos, where would he have been? Would he have been in top 5, perhaps? And then, therefore, that one to watch, mate, bang on. My list, flawless for this year. Apart from Carlos Prates, I think, was also in there. But look, Carlos Prates has been active, and he's brought us some really good fights and some really good finishes. So, yeah, I think that was still valid, really. But, yeah, back to Peyton Talbot and Henry Cejudo. Great to see him, of course. He shouldn't have retired when he did back in 2020. He should have kept going. He decided to come back after 3 years and fight killers. Really, he should have had a Legends fight against Marlon Vera, or we hope to see the Dominic Cruz fight, but it didn't really materialize. Cruz decided to retire after getting injured again. But yeah, Cejudo versus Vera would have made sense. However, I've actually got Marlon Vera as the next opponent for Peyton Talbot if we go into the rankings here. Who Vera is on a 3-fight losing skid at the moment. He's only got 1 win in his last 5. And yeah, like I said, technically he would have been an ideal opponent for Henry Cejudo. But yeah, other than that, for Peyton Talbot, I mean, Talbot didn't really get a finish, so he's not really going to climb that high. The UFC slotted him in there at number 12. Cejudo has officially dropped out. Vinicius Oliveira is a bad man. I'm really excited to see his fight against Mario Bautista. Bautista's got a bit of an engine on him. He fell short against Umar Nurmagomedov in that last fight. When is that? That's fight night coming up in February. So a little bit of time for that one. Peyton Talbot could fight a Rob Font if the UFC don't, decide to give him too much of a jump. Personally, I think the Marlon Vera fight makes sense. You've also got David Martinez in this division, who I'm super excited to see more of. I'm hoping he gets like a solid name as well. Ayman Zahabi probably deserves to fight up because he's on a 7-fight win streak. He just keeps churning out decisions. Or does the UFC decide to make Martinez defend his ranking against another really talented guy in this division? Tough one to call. I wouldn't want to see Talbot versus David Martinez because David Martinez I have not done my ones to watch yet, my top 5, but I have at least 9 names written down that are going to make that list, and I can tell you now that David Martinez is actually one of those names on that list. So there's a sneaky little preview for that video that will come eventually in the next few weeks. So yeah, I can't really see any other matchups unless he gets a loser of Figueiredo versus Nurmagomedov. I'm expecting Nurmagomedov to beat Figueiredo, and then Figueiredo is just going to get like the next guy, right, who's coming through. Whether it be a Vinicius Oliveira, whether it be Ayman Zahabi. That's all I can see. No, my name is 2025 catchphrase champ. Yeah. George, mate, I don't know what's happening with that content. He had Jan in the part. Oh, that's such a shame. I had picked Jan on the night as well, and I felt he actually won the decision, if I'm honest. But hey ho. To rank Talbot at 12 is a bit random. I mean, he did beat a former champion in Henry Cejudo. I think it kind of made sense. Welcome on in Possum Bands 1613, who says, keep going, brother. Cheers, buddy. Welcome on in. What did you make of Peyton Talbot's performance against Henry Cejudo? And who would you like to see him fight next? And of course, what fights do you want to make next after this weekend's main card? And I also want to hear your thoughts on Donald Trump's little announcement on the UFC White House, because we're going to go through the takeaways from that little speech. We'll also talk about the Jamal Hill versus Joanna Jedrzejczyk beef, and we'll talk about the full lineups for UFC 324 and 325. So don't go anywhere. Smash a like on the video, and welcome on in, brother. Back at it then. That's pretty much all I've got for Talbot, really. I think that's the only fight you make, unless of course you got Song Yudong against Sean O'Malley. That's happening. If O'Malley beats Song, Song's going to probably fight either Figgy or Zahabi is my bet on that. Early predictions. But yeah, we must digress. Not too many more movements in this division, really. Oh, mine's Why says Vinicius Oliveira is ranked above? So that's weird, that graphic. It says Oliveira is ranked above Talbot. Oh, it's joint 12. My Wikipedia page actually says Talbot's above Vinicius Oliveira. So the joint 12. Okay, whatever. It is what it is. Yeah, let's move on then to the third fight of the main card. In the flyweight division between Tatsuro Taira and Brandon Moreno. Taira, his first takedown attempt got reversed by Moreno, and Moreno was able to threaten the triangle choke straight after. I said in the breakdown for this fight that I felt that Moreno can win on the feet if he was to stay away from Taira's grappling. But in that second round, Taira was able to get the trip and ended up in mount position. The back take was smooth. He reacted at the right time when Moreno was able to find his feet. He took the back and flattened him out. Ground and pound stoppage. Mark Smith stepped in. But do you guys think that it was an early stoppage? Because at the time, we kind of felt it was. We felt that Moreno was kind of doing enough moving in order to survive. And it's such a weird thing because I think one of either Ash or Sai was saying, like, you know, why doesn't he just block these strikes that are going to his head, you know, like this? But the thing is if you do that kind of turtle position, the referee just kind of like, it just looks like you're not intelligently defending yourself and then you're going towards a stoppage. But at the same time, if you don't do that, then you're going to get some clubbering blows to the head. Some of them might even land to the back of your head. So, yeah, I personally felt that Moreno was doing enough to stay in there. It probably should have lasted a little longer. But look, props to Tatsuro Taira. He's a problem. I said in the breakdown as well, mate, if he gets the back, or, you know, he gets him on the ground, he's going to stay a step ahead of him the whole time. And that's exactly what we saw. So as for Brandon Moreno, now watching him get finished like that wasn't really a great look, especially against a guy who's kind of young in Tatsuro Taira. But have we already seen the best of Brandon Moreno in his career? Or do you guys think he can bounce back from this at the age of 32? He's been in some crazy wars, you know, the 5 fights with Davison Figueiredo or whatever it was, all 5 rounders as well. He as of recent hasn't been the most active. Yeah, have we seen the best of him? I hope we haven't. Brandon Moreno, I do enjoy watching him fight in this flyweight division. I don't know. I want to see him bounce back. I can't say if he's completely washed, as some fans would say. They would use that term. Especially, well, it's typical you would use that term, really. Against, when you're losing someone as young as Taira, you would think experience would kind of come out of it, really. But that wasn't the case. Yeah. 0-3 for Custom Shorts, says Toolbox Talk. Yeah, mate, just go back to the plain ones. I hope Moreno returns and it's on a Mexico card, but who's it going to be against is the question. For Tatsuro Taira, we're going to get more into him later on because there's an obvious fight really for him. Moreno moves down to 4th in the rankings. Taira moves into 3. Pantoja, of course, now at number 1. Royval in at 2. Albazi dropped down 1 spot to 5 as well. So, yeah, what's next then for Brandon Moreno? Let's go through it. I actually forgot to write a name down, but I think he could fight. He's not going to fight Manel Karp. He's fighting Royval this weekend. Horiguchi. I think Horiguchi versus Moreno makes sense. Horiguchi is someone who's been in the game for quite some time. He's 35, but man, did he look insane against Tagir Ulanbekov a few weeks ago. He's on a 4-fight win streak. First win back in the UFC. Yeah, I think that's a problem fight. And look, the UFC are going to want more contenders coming through in this division, especially if Pantoja does eventually get a rematch with Joshua Van, which we're going to get into in just a sec, because that'll be the next fight we'll be talking about. Yeah, other than that, you've got Tim Elliott's on a 2-fight win streak. Almabayo's on a 2-fight win streak as well. He beat Alex Perez, so maybe Brandon Moreno could fight him. Talks as Cup / Roy. I think Royval winner versus Tyra, as Pantoja is running it back. I don't know. Uncle Dana said otherwise, to be fair. And look, let's just go into it now, shall we? Wrong one. Uncle Dana kind of said otherwise in his post-fight press conference. He said that Van will likely defend against Tyra before Pantoja returns. I thought at the time, I read something straight after the event that apparently it was just a dislocated shoulder, and that, well, you just pop it back in and it'll be fine in a few weeks. But I think Dana had words from someone else, and they basically said it was a break. So if it was a break, it's going to take an extended time off. And then he also said that he'd be interested in doing Van versus Tyra. He also said he's interested in taking the UFC to Japan next year. But he says, look, it's not gospel. Nothing's confirmed or anything like that. He's just literally said that, well, that weekend, and they need to look at it. So strange seeing him there as change. Get it off. I was seeing him as champ. Yeah, no, it is quite strange, to be fair. No, you're right, Ash. If we go back into... Oh, wrong ones. Is that the wrong... Is that the wrong ranking? Yeah, I'm missing one. There we go. We're going back to that one. I must have pressed the wrong one. Yeah, so it is kind of very weird. You're right, Ash. Let's go on to just kind of breaking down that performance then. From Joshua Van. I mean, wasn't really much of a performance because it was over so quick. But to recap the fight then, Pantoja kind of went after Van early. He tried to create a bit of a smoke screen for his strikes so that he could get the clinch. But Van was just able to defend the whole time during those exchanges. Van caught the high kick and pushed Pantoja to the ground, which did cause the arm break. Now, what did you guys think of Joshua Van's celebrations after the fight? Would you celebrate the same if the fight had ended like that? Because, yeah, he was over the moon. He was celebrating on the cage and all that. And, yeah, it's not the best way to win a title fight. You kind of want to really beat the man. But at the same time, you know, you can complain all you want. You know, Van caused the injury to happen. It's kind of, you know, the same as when Anderson Silva or Chris Weidman broke Anderson Silva's leg. All right, okay, that was when his first title defense against Silva after he knocked him out. But it is almost a similar way. If you check in a low kick and the leg breaks, you caused it. So, yeah, I get people's arguments for it. It is not the best way to win, and really, you know, but it is what it is. I think most people in that scenario would probably take the win. You think if you've gone through like a several week training camp to beat the number one guy at the top, and then it eventually happens, whatever way it is, you are probably going to celebrate the same way that Joshua Van does. Let's get to some chats. Talk says, all the John Jones Corey riders are like, oh, John's still youngest. Yeah. Joshua Van's second youngest champion in UFC history. Muhammad Mokaev was hoping to break John Jones's record, but obviously the UFC put a halt to that. I don't think they will let that happen. What's up? Anna Kingsky MMA, welcome him back, brother, who says, what an amazing card. Fact that Johnson is 13 only is mad considering he beat Van. Yeah, no, you're right, man. That's crazy. How much has that kind of aged? If Charles Johnson must be like really licking his lips and thinking that he can get himself up there. I mean, he's ranked in at number 13. He's booked to fight Alex Perez, who's a bit of a veteran in the division. It's a good fight. It's not too much of a big jump for him. I think if he beats Alex Perez, then we can see him against a really good top 10 guy. That's who I can see. We've seen it happen before, like Aspinall versus Blades 1. Yeah. Blades got the win. The fight was over so quick. It does warrant a rematch eventually down the line. Was literally going to say the same things as talk. Mo versus Van. Makayev. You want to bring back Makayev? Yeah, that's another thing as well. Like, is Makayev actually going to get re-signed to the UFC next year? And where does he fit in? Does the UFC decide to put him against Horiguchi, maybe? Or is his management going to really dig their heels and go, no, we want a top 5 guy? And if so, Brandon Moreno could be that guy. Or do you do a Karp versus Royval winner? Actually, no, he's already fought Karp. So, yeah, if Karp beats Royval, then that makes Muhammad Makayev's case even interesting coming in. Because he'd be like, well, I want a title shot, and that's it. Or, because the UFC aren't going to rebook the Karp fight. And the fact that Karp would be in at number 2 says it all, really. Makayev needs to be back. Horiguchi versus Royval or Karp after that, or after their fight. I also like that as well. Yeah, mate, there's so many exciting fights for Horiguchi. You know, he's back in the UFC. I can't wait. But, yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of all of them. Keep them coming. I'm a fan of all of them. But here's the thing, right, guys. So if the UFC are going to book Van versus Tyra for the flyweight belt, what happens if Tyra beats Van? What happens to Pantoja when he returns? Is he going to fight straight away against Tyra? You'd probably expect so, right? Or does the UFC decide to book a different fight and you then get Tyra versus the winner of... he's already lost to Royval, though. I mean, the winner... You could still do the winner of Royval versus Karp. You know, it gets Royval back into title contention. But then all of a sudden, flyweight has just suddenly become really, really interesting. Because there's so many different scenarios that could play out if Tyra beats Van. But of course, if Van gets the win, then yeah, Pantoja versus Van rematch is happening later on in 2026. So, yeah, I don't know. What would you guys do in that scenario? Which fights would you make? Talk says that Mo needs to stay humble and not run before he can walk. That's the whole reason why he was given his P45. I like that. I think they give him a title shot anyways. No matter who it is. Okay, that's fair. Yeah, Pantoja really deserves it. You know, he racked up several title defenses, was on course to kind of, well, he wasn't really going to touch Demetrius Johnson's record, I don't think, but I think he would have been at least close to it. I mean, he currently have the second most title defenses in this division? Am I right in saying that? Because surely Cejudo didn't defend it that many times. Brandon Moreno and Davison Figueiredo were swapping the belt between themselves. Yeah, I think that's possible. Like, he's... I need someone to ask... thingy... AI. So, how many defenses did Pantoja get? 1, 2, 3, 4... 4 defenses. That's quite a lot, actually, for this division. Most title defenses in UFC flyweight. There we go. Let's see what we got. Mighty Mouse. Just Mighty Mouse, but I want. I know. Okay, so. Yeah. No. Okay. Let's just put in second most. Joseph Benavidez. 3 defenses. What? Mate, what? Really? 3D? No. Google AI is terrible. It's Pantoja, you mong. Mate, that's well out of date. See, look, never trust AI, guys. It just pulls out facts from all over the place, but they're not necessarily in chronological order. Weird. Do you personally like that Tyra and Van won no more of the same rematches with Moreno and Pantoja? Yeah. Oh, I kind of, yeah, I guess so. I mean, they're both young and they're going to kind of make this division more exciting. No one's touching DJ's record. He has a pay-per-view and fight nights. He was on pay-per-view and fight. No, that's true. Yeah. I mean, do you remember those days? Do you remember when we used to get... I think we got... Didn't we get Cruz versus Mighty Mouse bantamweight title fight on a fight night? That was mad. They were the wild worst days. I've seen Mighty Mouse take a dig at Pantoja regarding the title defenses since Pantoja lost. Really? I thought I read something a bit like that as well. I mean, DJ's going to be DJ, man. But it's a tough record to break. It really is. I actually felt that at one point that Pantoja was going to break it, and unfortunately, it's the way it's ended is such a shame, isn't it? It is such a shame. So yeah, I think we kind of gone through then what's next for both Van and Pantoja. Pantoja is going to be next for whoever's holding that belt. When he returns, he's next in there. He deserves it, in my opinion. 36 years old with that type of injury. How do you come back from that? Is very true. He's actually 36. Wow. So he's a year older than... Who was I looking at earlier? Who was 35. I think it was Horiguchi. So Brandon Moreno's only 32. That's crazy. He can still come back, man. Weili won hers on China Fight Night. That's right. That was probably the last title fight on a fight night then. Wasn't it? Oh, no. Shevchenko versus Grasso, I think was. I believe. Wasn't that that was like a no-chair UFC type thing. Pantoja took the break. A leg quote to literally. Or break an arm. That's not really the saying though, is it? Break it or break a limb, you know, as most Americans would probably say. So yeah, smash like on the video if you've not done so already, guys. Let's head on then to talk about the main events between Merab Dvalishvili and Petr Yan. It's reminding me a lot of Anderson Silva. Same, man. Like, I was devastated to see him go out like that with that leg break. It was such a shame how the great Anderson Silva just kind of disappeared like that. You know, he was no longer this phenom, this kind of guy you could never see lose a fight ever because he was just unbeatable. He had that unbeatable aura about him, and then Chris Weidman just kind of flipped the switch and killed it. Vintage Yan at his best. Body kicks were on point. Mate, spot on. Exactly. Mate, it was so well placed. Took down Merab with ease. Yeah, man. I mean, look. He kept Merab on the back foot for most of the fight. And it's kind of key to his path to victory, really, in this fight. You know, he stopped the takedown threat and didn't allow Merab to rack up much control time. Merab was only successful 2 out of 29 times with his takedowns. Yan was successful 5 out of 9 times with his takedowns. So that kind of speaks a lot of volumes. And like I was saying in the breakdown heading into that fight during the watch long, that if you go back and you look at the stats from their first fight, Petr Yan actually stuffed quite a lot of takedown attempts. The problem with Yan in that fight is because it was Merab drained him. He drained that gas tank away from him, and he was constantly wearing on him up against the cage, just grinding him out. And Yan wasn't really able to do anything effective. And okay, maybe he came into that fight a little injured. I felt that, yeah, Petr Yan was clear. He had the better moments in the striking for most of the fight. Most importantly, he kept up with Merab's pace the whole fight. I think that was a big one. That was a big thing heading into this. You know, can he actually do that? Merab, however, did activity catch up with him? Because it was his 4th fight this year, all title fights. 3 of those went the distance. What can Merab do differently in the trilogy, though? Personally, I think the answer is he needs to study Jan's takedown defense in both fights and work out ways to counteract it so he can be more effective with his grappling, because that's going to be his key to victory, really. This is what real champions do. They identify problems and they come up with solutions and they execute them. That's what Merab needs to do in the trilogy fight. And I think that's going to tell... We're going to tell a lot in that 3rd fight. I'm super excited for it. I can't wait to see it happen. Merab looked like he'd been hit south frying pan. You see Jan's coach have a plan A, B, C game plan. If Merab does this, we do this. Now that's coaching. Mate, solid. Yeah. Like, they had the game plan down to a T in that fight, and that's what we saw. Jan also had a broken hand going into the fight. I'm not did he? Oh, that was the 1st fight, right? And now we see Jan healthy. Yeah, the difference, right? The difference. Activity definitely played a role. We saw it happen with RDR and now Merab. Yeah, man. Spot on. Yeah, I remember that for sure. That's crazy how, like, RDR was getting some kind of aura about him, and then Eddie Alvarez came out of nowhere. With Merab's takedowns, he's an aggressive wrestler, but his takedown accuracy isn't great. So does that make him a good wrestler compared to Islam or Usman? Now we're putting him in that bracket. You're right, yeah. I mean, it was still the fact that no one leading up to that point had an answer for it. Even though, like, against Jose Aldo, he barely scored a takedown. But what he did was disrupt Aldo's striking rhythm, wore him down against the cage, and took away his gas tank. And that's what Merab does. And now that Jan has got the win and kind of got that blueprint, are more fighters going to follow suit? UFC most likely do O'Malley versus Jan 2 at the White House. Oof. You can see it, right? Do you put Jan as the 135-pound GOAT with this win? Well, I mean, people were starting to put Merab in that category, weren't they? But my answer to that would be no, because, fun fact, Petr Yan is yet to rack up a title defense. When you go back to his resume, I've not got it, unfortunately, but we'll go into the rankings anyway. When you look back at his resume, he won the vacant belt against was Corey Sanhagen. Yeah. Then he lost against Aljo. That whole drama, right? No, sorry, I'm wrong. He beat Jose Aldo for the vacant belt, lost against Aljo in that whole drama knee thing, right? Then he won the interim bantamweight belt off of in the Corey Sanhagen fight. And then when he fought Aljamain Sterling the second time, Aljo beat him, and that was it. So Petr Yan's got a lot of work still left to do in this division at the age of 32. I'm intrigued to see where he goes from here. Can he beat Merab a 3rd time? But yeah, no, I think you're right. You know, does this win for Petr Yan open the door for another Sean O'Malley title fight? Because the UFC, you know, the UFC are going to want to make that fight for the White House card. But question is how soon do they make the trilogy with Merab? I think that fight's got to be next, really. I mean, let's see what how Sean O'Malley looks against Song Yadong. Because if he goes against a knockout against Song Yadong, Sean O'Malley's stock just starts rising again. And then he is going to demand for a title shot. Is Merab going to be healthy is the question. And is timing going to, align for a trilogy fight or not? Because if it doesn't, and Merab's hurt, the UFC are going to move on, and they will do that Sean O'Malley fight. Guarantee it. So, look, it's hard to predict, but let's just wait and see. And we're going to be all for it, mate. We're going to be all for it come next year. So yeah, what do you guys think? I mean, I'd rather see that Jan Dvalishvili trilogy than see Jan versus O'Malley. Yes, it was kind of a bit controversial. Some people felt that Peter Yan won that fight. Others felt that Sean O'Malley won the fight. It was super close. It was down to the wire. And yeah, I think the second time around could be real interesting. I hope we see both fights, really. But if Merab beats Jan in the trilogy, then that's it for O'Malley, really. Jan did say he didn't want to give Merab an immediate rematch right away. He didn't. I've missed that. What? Is he really that sick of Merab? I mean, look, it's one of those, right? It's one of those. Peter Yan gets beaten badly against Merab, so he then does whatever he can to patch everything that went wrong in that first fight and come in with the second with a complete different game plan and a complete different look. Now it's on Merab to do the same. And maybe that kind of a little bit frightening for Peter Yan. I don't know. But on the other hand, when Merab got the belt, he called the shots and he ended up fighting O'Malley again because O'Malley is the star boy in the division. Look, straight after one title defense against Umar Nurmagomedov, he was like, nah, give me O'Malley again, even though O'Malley doesn't deserve it. Jan's going to do the same thing. Oh, it's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy. All right, cool. Awesome stuff, guys. Smash a like on the video. Let's get into some headlines then. Let's talk about this little one right here and listen to Donald Trump talk about the White House card. Let's see if we get this close enough for you guys to hear.
UFC on June 14th. It's going to be June 14th next year. And they're building an arena. The great Dana White's building an arena. And they're going to have 8 or 9 championship fights, the biggest fights they've ever had. Everyone's a championship fight. And everyone's a legendary type of fight. He's actually holding back fights right now for 6 months so he can do it for this, for 250. I think 250 is going to be amazing. I think the arena is going to be 5,000 or 6,000 seats right in front of the front door of the White House and 100,000 people in the back where they're putting up 8 or 10 very big screens. That's going to be an exciting night. So many people are asking for tickets, the UFC.
Okay, right, let's get into it. Get your chats in about that. Georgia gets that in a sec. Trump exaggerating. No way that happens. Yeah, let's go. Let's break it down then, okay? So here are the takeaways from that little speech, whatever he said to the media or paparazzi, whoever he was in front of, right? He said Dana is building an arena on the lawn, which is kind of new. It will hold 5,000 or 6,000 seats. Doable. Makes sense. 100,000 people will be in the back with 8 to 10 large screens. 100,000 people at the back of the White House. This isn't a Rolling Stones concert. This is the UFC. I can't really see that being that happening. Unless they actually put it on 4th of July, but it's not. It's going to be in June 14th, which is on his birthday. I don't know. Do you guys think that many people will come out to a UFC event? I guess it'll be free. It's not going to be ticketed. Is security a big problem? I mean, I guess they do it with concerts. Yeah, I'm not too sure about that one. The next bit, there's going to be 8/9 championship fights. Now, let's be real here. 12 belts in total, including the BMF belt. And Dana is holding back fights for 6 months. 6 months. That's a long time. You honestly think that we're going to get 8 to 9 championship belts and that Paramount Plus are going to absolutely starve for most of the year just for this White House card? Look, I'm all with Anakinski MMA's comment there about Trump over-exaggerating. I think he is. I think what Dana's actually told him is that there will be 8 to 9 champion and former champions. I think it's going to look a little bit more like UFC 300, where you had like former champions on the prelims in big fights. That's what I can see. And look, don't get me wrong, this White House card is going to have a lot of hype and we're going to be super excited about it. And again, I think it's going to be a complete replica of UFC 300. But here's the thing, fight fans, is we can't get too overexcited about it. Because the mistake that we made in the build-up to UFC 300 is we were coming up with all of these crazy super fights. Legends coming back from retirement. Brock Lesnar, Fedor, Brock Lesnar, Alex Pereira, John Jones. Okay, Alex Pereira, John Jones is probably the most likely option. Like all of these kind of mega fights, and then it came down to we just got Pereira versus Hill, which was the next fight in that division anyway. You know, there was just a lot of talk. There was a lot of talk. GSP coming back, talk of Ronda Rousey coming back. That's what we can't do with this White House card. We can't get sucked into all of these like false rumors because we're going to get burnt by the actual end result. And heading into that, Dana was also trying to kind of overhype it as well. He was saying, "Oh, we're working on something really special and nothing's been done before." Didn't come out into fruition though, was it? You know, was it Khabib coming back? Who was it? Like, you know, so I'm gonna get excited, but try not to get too excited. Is it even possible? No, it's not. Imagine 9 5-rounders. Yeah, that's a long night, bro. That's a long night. It's not happening. Mackenzie Dern would have been on this card. Yeah, I can see that. Let's just hold not only a division but the whole UFC. Yeah, let's just have no pay-per-view event. Or not. Well, it's not pay-per-views anymore. Let's have no Paramount Plus events until June. Exactly. Former chat. Interim belts. The whole card, mate. I even thought that we're going to get interim belts until June. Like, I think that's just what's going to happen. Everyone's going to get... They're going to be dishing out interim belts. You get an interim belt. You get an interim belt. And then none of those champions are actually going to fight on the White House card. Well, they might. I don't know. You know, the UFC might just suddenly be like, look, say to all their champions, okay, look, I want you to do minimal training because we don't want any injuries, but you're going to be on the White House card. So, yeah, stay healthy. No solid sparring. You're not going to be fighting. You're going to get mega bucks in June for Donald Trump. And then, yeah, everyone else is going to do the kind of hard work to get to that interim, but the actual title fight. Although I actually thought of a good idea that the UFC should do a tournament throughout the year that builds up to that event. I think that'd be really cool. But look, they don't want to be a copycat and do a Bellator or anything like that, do they? Connor says, remember they said him versus Diaz for 300. Yeah, that was another one as well. That was another one. Sadly, not the case. Was it? This is what it is. All right. Yeah, we'll perhaps do a different video down the line about our ideal White House card. Maybe like a realistic one. So like you'd have Conor. I think Conor versus Holloway. Conor versus the Holloway versus Oliveira winner. I think that should be the fight that they make. Like I've said so many times on the show now. I'm done with the Chandler fight. Conor needs a belt on the line. Unless they make up a belt, which I'm not surprised if they do, like this Donald Trump belt or the White House belt. Yeah, it's like a one and done type scenario, but it's like almost a filler belt because we need McGregor to headline the event, but he also needs to fight for a belt because it makes it interesting. But it would be very like WWE-esque if they just decide to do like this White House belt. It'd be so like corny and cringy. Like BMF was bad enough as it is, right? Let's be real here. Let's be real. But yeah, I don't know. Jones versus Pereira makes a lot of sense, I think. Really. That's probably the best fight that we're going to get. Or Makhachev versus Topuria. That's another one. Just give me those two. Chuck Connor on there if you want. I think that would be like the best case scenario. But I'm not completely confident on it, really. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about then this thing. This is going to be quite lengthy. We'll get through it as quick as possible. The beef between Jamal Hill and Joanna Jedrzejczyk. Now, I don't know if you can hear this altercation if you've not seen it. For those who have seen it, bear with, because there's more to come on it. All right. Let's play it. If you touch my girl, I'm going to knock you out. You will, says question. Joanna Jedrzejczyk, question mark. So when this kind of came out, I was like, well, like, it's one of those. There's a bit of an argument going on in social media at the moment, isn't it? It's like, well, Jamal Hill shouldn't be such a woman beater and shouldn't threaten a woman, which is very true. But then at the same time, if Joanna Jedrzejczyk is threatening a non-trained female, then that's also bad. So they're both bad. Now, we didn't get the full story. That's just all we've got, right? So we can't really say too much. However, Joanna Jedrzejczyk has kind of come out on social media and said this. But the crazy part is yet to come. Oh. Hang on.
I worked so hard to earn my reputation, and I'm embarrassed to be in this situation, but when somebody uses my name falsely, without any basis in truth, I will always stand up for myself, and for that, I do not deserve to be threatened. I am mindful that I am a strong, capable woman who has the benefit of a lifetime of self-defense training. I have a platform and resources that most women don't have. So I empathize with the women who are disrespected and threatened and lack the power and means to stand up for themselves and to stand up for the truth. I expect more from the society. I certainly expect more from athletes in our sport. I want to thank the UFC security and staff for their professionalism. I consider this matter closed, and I wish everyone a happy and healthy holiday season.
Okay, that's all well and good. It's all fair. But Joanna, you've not really explained what actually happened from your point of view or your perspective. So everything you're saying is kind of clearly about Jamal Hill's other half, right? And it's kind of like, well, where has this all come from? Now, the next thing I want to show you is Jamal Hill's he's come out on this recently. And we've also got a comment from Joanna on there as well. I'm not going to show you the whole clip because it is about 7 minutes long. But at the start, he kind of explains how confused he was in the situation and that kind of his girlfriend wasn't even there, right? That's what we all kind of assumed. And that Joanna kind of just came up to him and was just sort of saying that I'm a Polish gangster and you shouldn't mess with me, blah, 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 blah. I can knock you out. I can knock your girl out. And it's kind of like, what? Right? And then Jamal Hill actually gives us a bit of detail. I think it's about 5 minutes into this clip.
My girl already knew this. She is that, so she just straight up turns to Joanna and says, "You had sex with."
Okay,
is playing this little game. Now, just flat out, there's no way. This just to give y'all straight up context, and just to let you know, I'm being straight up honest. A couple years ago in New York, like when the whole thing with the bus incident happened, a bunch of us were in there. Joanna was in New York, and I was in New York. You know, I was feeling myself. I was drunk, and you know, I shot my shot. I was shooting my shot. You know, I was shooting my shot. You know, I tried to smash. Right?
What? Jamal Hill openly says that he tried to get on Joanna. That is crazy. The fact that I mean, fair play to him for being honest. But then it still gets a bit crazy.
Her manager, the entire time we're at this event, is like subliminally trying to drop messages to my girl, like trying to dry snitch. But I'm real, bro. I'm real. I'm a very honest and transparent person. My girl already knew this. She is that, so she just straight up turns to Joanna and says, "You had sex with Jamal?" Like, says this to her in front of my girl, which understandably could be embarrassing for her.
What?
Right? Which is something I absolutely never said. I said I tried to sleep with her. So this is from New York, right?
He's even got receipts.
What are you doing? She sends me a video, her drinking a little wink or whatever in the glass, you know. Her response, "Come to the hookah bar." Well, hookah bar. She drops her, you know what I mean? So I went to my room for a minute, kicked it, was talking, send her a couple messages, and then I was like, "I'm probably gonna chill at the bar here. Why don't you come here?" Charlie didn't say nothing. It was like, "Come on, come to the bar where I'm at." You know, was slightly disrespectful. Kind of shows you the undertone of how she.
So, Joanna kind of wanted to see where things would go with this, clearly, right? There's some intentions there, I feel. What do you guys reckon, chat? Hill talks more than he fights. Yes, Wells, good to see you, man. Mel Pena talks too much, says Toolbox Talk. She'd have given Hill the Tiski Kuva combo. Kuva. Is that... let's continue playing this.
How she, you know what I mean, her respect whenever it comes to even speaking with men. She shares a location with me. I go to the bar. We chill. We have some drinks. I seen the type of attitude she has. It wasn't really clicking or going nowhere. So it was like, it was what it was. I'm like, cool. I took my ball and I went home. You know what I mean? I'm going to take my ball and I'm going to go home. I'm not making shots today. The shot's not going in today. That's it. Like, that's like the gist of it. So even if you go further down in these messages, you can see, all right, shaking my head, whatever. You know what I mean? We cool. After this, there was no bad blood from this. No bad blood from this. You know what I mean? Champ, all the best. Thanks, champ. This is how whenever I got to the event, I walked up and I addressed her and I approached her this way. She completely flipped on me. I still, right now, am now being looked at, painted everywhere, which way. And
so this is crazy. So was that a jealous move from Joanna? I mean, I think it's crazy. Like, at the start of this video, like, Jamal openly said that he went around saying hello to everybody who was in the VIP section. And then Joanna just kind of turned on him like that. And she's even commented under this video, "You are full of lies, Jamal. I know the truth. And yes, it's a shame you didn't have a camera on." Because he actually says in this video as well that he wishes he wore a camera during the whole time to capture everything that she was doing. Is this drunkenly behavior from Joanna? Very hard to tell. It kind of seems like that way, doesn't it? I don't think there's anything else.
I still don't know why she's mad. If she can tell anybody why she's mad, please, truly, let me know.
Or has Jamal Hill done something that he's not actually
that I must address,
that he's not actually letting on here? That's my thinking here. What do you guys think? The fact that Jamal Hill shot his shot at Joanna is a few years ago is pretty funny. Joanna and Hill having a fight. Imagine Joanna by TKO. Joanna must have been tipsy. Mate, she was 100% intoxicated. I mean, we've met Joanna before. You know, we've done some content with her. She's down to earth. She's cool, man. You know, she's a very driven lady. She's doing well for herself at the moment. She was with like someone, wasn't she, at one point? Clearly that's not the case anymore. I have no idea. I have no idea. It's crazy though. Maybe there's more to it, but we'll see if anything else comes of it. Maybe Joanna might reply in another video. Just good juicy drama, really. At the end of the day, it wasn't really anything we would expect. Really, like, sure, like we've had the odd thing where fighters just kind of got together and broken up. You know, you've got Mackenzie Dern. Isn't she going out with that Tricoli guy who lost, I think, at the weekend? You got the whole like undercover thing with Cheyenne Blismus or Cheyenne Buys. She got with Roman Dolidze. That's pretty obvious now. Wasn't really properly made public, but fighter fans done their research and realized what went on there. But it wasn't really brought to media attention, which is crazy. But yeah, it's very rare for things like that to happen in the world of MMA. So yeah. All right. Let's move on to UFC 324 and talk about then the fight card that got announced real quick. So the full card basically got announced. You guys can see that. We've got Gaethje versus Pimlet, of course, as the headliner. That's obvious. Kayla Harrison, Amanda Nunes as the co-main. Sean O'Malley, Song Yadong, featured bout. Waldo Cortez Acosta versus Derek Lewis. That's a fun one. Jean Silva versus Arnold Allen kicking things off. Also on the prelims, Nikita Krylov. I don't think these are actually in order. Nikita Krylov versus Modestas Bukauskas. That's a big one. Umar Nurmagomedov versus Davison Figueiredo. That should be intriguing, but Umar's going to win that one. Atiba Gaeta versus Andrei Puliev. Both guys are hanging just outside of the middleweight rankings and could very well do big things in 2026. Alex Perez versus Charles Johnson. That's we mentioned earlier. Natalia Silva versus Rose Namajunas. Wasn't too pleased with Natalia Silva stepping up on short notice against Rose Namajunas, if I'm honest. I feel like she is next in line for the belt and she's decided to step up. Weird. So it's just camera some of them. So yeah, fun card. Super stacked. That's a good one to kick off the year, I believe. Something always going on with Jamel Hill, says Ski MMA. Umar being on the prelims is strange. Agreed. You know what? I'd put that. Maybe it's because they're just trying to balance things out. Maybe that one will likely go to a decision. Less likely chance of a finish. So they decide to put it on prelims. Atiba should be prelim headliner. Ooh. I think the actual prelim headliner. I think it might be that, or it might be. I think Umar versus Figueiredo. Yeah. Super fun card. The other card that got announced, UFC 325. I don't think is as good, but there's some fun fights. Of course, Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez is the main event. We talked about that in the last Aftermath show. Dan Hooker versus BST made a lot of sense. Fun one down under in Australia. Fazia versus Rufi, man, fight of the night written all over that. Man, I am super pumped for that fight. That is insane. You got Tai Tuivasa's return against Alison Teixeira. Apparently Tuivasa's slimmed down a bit now, so it'll be intriguing to see how he looks coming back. Jimmy Crute versus Dustin Jacoby is a good one as well in the light heavyweight division. Quillen Solkild, yeah. Wasuwazu is a fun one for sure. Dan coming back quick. I don't know if I like it. Yeah, me too. It's kind of got BSD win written all over it. Really, isn't it? Rose versus Silva is the headliner. It was. It is now Natalia Silva. Oh, sorry. No, I mean, okay. Yeah, no, I think you're right. Yeah. Yeah. Some other good prelim fights. We spoke to Torres Fini a little while ago. He's going to be his fight got revealed as Jacob Malkoun. Makes sense. Malkoun, I don't think has got the best of UFC records. Bit more experience than Finney, so good fight for him. Oben Elliott back in the mix as well. Good to see. So yeah, good start to 2026. Yeah, let there more be announced. Rufi getting Faziev after a loss is odd. That is true. I mean, look, on paper it's a fun fight. But like I said in the previous Aftermath, I'm sure I've said this, that the UFC, like the fighter nerds, they're going to give them many more opportunities despite losing. Yeah, they're just popular. I think they've got Dana White privilege for sure. All right. Okay, guys, that's pretty much all we've got time for on the news front of things. Awesome stuff as always. Thanks for joining in, and make sure you got the notifications bell rang on our channel if you've not done so already, so you can be notified for when we're going live next. Talkbox Talk says UFC 325, the main event, no one wanted. Agreed. Is Mosfar dead? Apparently Mosfar versus Murphy, I think, is probably the most likely UFC London headliner. So we'll see down the stretch when more of that comes. Where's the good content? Much more to be recorded, my friend. Much more to be recorded. We'll hopefully be bringing you more stuff throughout the Christmas period, because we got a long time until fights are back on the box after next weekend. So yeah, we're going to do whatever we can to keep things rolling. So make sure, like I said, my notifications bell rang, and you can stay up to date with everything we're putting out. Awesome stuff, guys. Take it easy, and we'll see you this weekend for the last UFC watch along. That will be for the Royval versus Carp card. The ATF Fight Picks League winner will be announced. So stay tuned for that. If you're not part of the Fight Picks League, make sure you stay up to date on our socials for when the next league gets announced. Can you beat me at that, George? That's the question, because I'm in the top 5 of the league. Mate, top 5, winner's going to win at the end of the day. Making strives. So, yeah. Lots of fun stuff coming your way. See you in the next one. Ciao for now, folks. Bye-bye.